All right, everybody. A very busy day for the Colorado Avalanche in Avalanche land. Some trades that went down. And then, oh, yeah, there was a game to be played. And man, was that an exciting game. One of those playoff atmosphere like games against the Edmonton Oilers. Took overtime to do it, but the Avs get the extra point and win it in overtime on a Nathan MacKinnon goal. Kyle and I are here to break down the entire day from soup to nuts. Let's do this. All right, everybody, welcome aboard to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Today's episode brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. Tell them Locked On sent you. All right, Kyle. Busy day for Avalanche and Avalanche fans. A couple big trades that went down for the Avs. Nick says he's not getting any sound. We'll have to look into that. But we'll talk about them and the Edmonton game for overtime. So we'll start with the trades because that's kind of we'll go in, I guess, chronological order with how the day went for the Avalanche. First, it was, a lot of nothingness early in the day, and I think a lot of people were getting worried that the Avs were not going to make any moves, and then they did, and it was kind of a big one. Maybe, I would say, would you say it's probably their biggest one outside of the Josh Manson one with Artturi Lehkonen?
Oh yeah, easily. Like Artturi Lehkonen, when that rolled across my phone, I was blown away. I was like, "Ooh, this is exactly what the Avalanche needed." And to follow it up with Cogliano, you're like, "Okay, this is exactly what the Avalanche needed." So,
yeah. I mean, for the Avs, the Lehkonen deal, and it's for Justin Barron. And we heard his name getting thrown around, Justin Barron and a second-round pick in next year's draft. So you heard Barron getting thrown around for Claude Giroux, and you kind of felt like, all right, I understand that for Giroux, and outside of him, I don't think maybe there's really nobody else there that you could throw him in a trade for. Turned out that not be the case. And I mean, he's one of those guys, and I had a kind of conversation with somebody about, and I think you saw it on Twitter, like where does he fit with this team? He's almost expendable in the fact that you were loaded up on defense right now. So I don't know where he would fit. He's still maybe a year or so away. They were impressed with him in training camp this year, but I think it was a necessary move. This is where you have to be all in.
Yeah.
And that's a move that you have to make to get somebody like Lehkonen. And I think the impressive thing is he's a restricted free agent. So it's not a rental.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's tough to see Barron go, but when you get a player of the quality of Lehkonen coming in, like you kind of understand. Like we have said this 100,000 times when we're talking about the Avalanche this season. This is cup or bust, and like the defense is crowded. Yes, this is Barron is a gamble for the future. So we can address that in the off season. We could probably find someone that's on the same level of Barron, and who knows, Bo Byram might come back super healthy and be good to go for next season, and then there you go. There's your Byram replacement. So you're building the team for the cup run now. You address everything in the future in the off season, but right now this trade deadline was meant for solidifying this team in the cup or bust mentality.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where like Joe Sakic, he hasn't really pulled the trigger on huge deals. And I think, we've said it in the past, this is kind of the year where you have to throw that aside. You have to, and you've built up a really good prospect pool, And yeah, you don't want to get rid of those guys, but this is the game that's played. This is the business side of things. So you have to give up some assets you don't necessarily want to fill holes, to fill gaps. If the Avs had no gaps and you didn't have to make these big moves, then fine. But they did. As well as they're playing, there were some holes that they had to fill in. And I think, looking back at the totality of the Avs trade season, I mean, it is 2 thumbs up. It is A plus. It's a 100. What on the surface?
Yeah,
We still have to see how it plays out and how these guys do in Avalanche jerseys. But I think this is as good as a trade deadline as you can have for the Colorado Avalanche. I think it's fantastic.
and if you watch Joe Sakic in his press conference when he was talking about these trades, like when you're looking at it, all we really shipped out was prospects, draft picks, and Jost. And when the topic of Jost came up, it was just making that bigger, like making that position bigger. Like Jost, yeah, he's small. We get that. And that's why Berkey and JT Comfort, the other 2 of the 3 that we were watching for the trade deadline, like they have size compared to Jost. Mm-hmm. And you want to, because you got manhandled against Vegas in the playoffs last year, you want size going into the playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. And they addressed every bit of that, shored up some holes on the defense. So I think this was one of Sakic's low-key better draft, like the deadline, the trade deadline. I think it's one of the better ones he's ever had.
Yeah, man. I think we were all in the boat of, they're going to have a rental. And I said it over and over again. I just thought the first round pick was gone for next year. And the fact that he didn't give up a first round pick when first round picks were flying across the league. And he was like, no. And he said it. He said in the press conference, we were not giving that up. And we were not giving up our first round pick. And we were not giving up Justin Barron for a rental. Yeah. He says that now. And like I said earlier, he could have been involved in that Claude Giroux deal. I think Giroux is a different animal. Yeah. You know what I mean? What you're getting in him is a lot. So I think you're willing to go that route if you could bring in Claude Giroux. If, anything outside of that, they were not going to do it. And he stuck to his guns. And I'm just amazed by how he always seems to get what he wants. And when people kind of joke around, well, they shouldn't take his calls. Well, I think Montreal got a pretty good prospect on their hands. And they have a second round pick, which is fine. Probably gonna be a late second round pick, but it's a second round pick nonetheless in what is likely to be a pretty deep draft. So all around, I mean, on both sides, for every deal the Avs made, we're looking at the Avs side of things. But what they gave up, I think those teams are happy with what they got, and the Avalanche are clearly happy with what they inherited.
And see, now this is a hindsight 2020 move. Like I know on yesterday's episode, we were kind of like in that bitter breakup state when it came to Giroux, and we were talking about his points. And you mentioned like he's getting those points, making that Philly Flyer team better. You're getting that in spades with Lehkonen, and he's cheaper, and he's got an additional year, and we still didn't have to give up a first round pick for him. I think we might have come out better because we got to get Cogliano right before the deadline was up. Yeah. Like, I think we might have come out a little bit better than if we landed Giroux.
It's an argument to be made. Definitely an argument to be made. And you see Hop's question or remarks on the bottom there about, he respects Joe, but he does question Barron. I get that. I get that, man. But there's times where you can't keep hanging on to these guys. And like we said before, if your window is now and you need to fill in those slots with guys that can do it and not a question mark down the road. And I want to say Barron is a massive question mark. I was looking forward to him having a good career with the Avs. And now I think he's just going to have a good career with Montreal. But you have to pull these deals if you want to go win a cup right now. You can't keep wanting to win a cup for the future and hoping some of these prospects pan out, because some of them don't.
And see, like, I understand everyone's kind of sad to see Barron go, but we've also talked about on the show, where have the Colorado Eagles call-ups been all year? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's been Sherwood. It's been Magna a couple times, I think. Who else? I mean, Sherwood's the big one that's played the most.
And then you've seen a little bit of Sampo, but if like there was a lot of confidence in where Barron is going to fit in, you might have seen him a little bit. Like if this is if this is a future project and what they see with Barron, if they see like this is a future, you could probably get someone of that same caliber by retaining that first round pick next year that we didn't give away.
He was the last cut in training camp, Justin Barron. They really liked what they saw from him. So no, they didn't just want to hand him over. But you have to look at what you got right now, and it's like do we need to make a deal for? Does Lehkonen make us that much better that we're willing to give up Barron? Joe Sakic answer to that is yes.
Yeah,
and the fact that he's a restricted free agent just speaks volumes to what the moves that the guy can make. And you'll have him for at least one more year, depending on how long you want to sign him for, but you'll have him at least for 2 years.
And when you see the productions in line 3 and 4, probably the past 2 weeks, the addition of Lehkonen and Cogliano on those lines, I mean, this, like the game we had last night or tonight would not have been as close as it was. Like you have, because this is another game that we had to rely on the top line. We don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. No. I think the like we said in the other day, like the bottom lines are kind of like their ears perked up.
Yeah.
And like, okay, we got to step it up. Like we're too good of a team. But what did the Avs do? They went and got players that can facilitate that and help those guys play a little bit better. So all around. And Jason Smith says he went from a C to an A- after today. That's his grade for the Avs.
My favorite Avalanche writer, Jason Smith.
All right. So yeah, the trade deadline has come to an end, and I think we're all pretty happy for what the Avalanche brought in. We will see Lehkonen where the Avs are playing. They got a day off, and then they're playing again. So we'll probably see him for that game. Who are they playing? Isn't that Go ahead, talk.
I know they mentioned just briefly offhand in the broadcast that they are working on immigration and all of that for Lehkonen. Didn't know that would be that much of an issue.
No, I don't think it's an issue. I think it's just a formality.
So, like,
just go through it. Yeah,
I don't know why they would throw it out there like it would be a holdup, but maybe he joins the team on Wednesday. I mean, it took no time for Marc-Andre Fleury to suit up for the Wild. So
yeah, right. He was on the bench, right? Oh my god,
he was ready. He was 1 foot out the door. So.
Tuesday they're off. Wednesday home against Vancouver. So maybe we'll see him then. All right, but we do have a game to talk about, and an exciting one at that. But first, we have betonline.net, and it is college basketball's big tournament. Kyle's Auburn Tigers are eliminated. I'm so sorry, man.
I'm an Auburn fan. I'm used to it.
But my Final Four is still intact. I have 8 teams remaining out of these 16, and 4 of them are my Final Four. So that's, I guess, good is what they tell me. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, betonline.net is the #1 source for all your sports betting needs and info. It remains the best spot for your sports scores, podcasts, and news for this season. And it's not just college basketball or basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and all of the action. That's betonline.net. It's where the game starts. All right, Avalanche with a big win. I mean, every win is a big win, but man, what a game between them and Edmonton. I think they were saying on Altitude it was like 800 and something days since the last time these two teams faced off against each other. And you're like, wow, like, yeah, it does seem like it's been that long. The Avs pull this thing out. I mean, to me, it was really, really, and you always want to get the first goal. You know, obviously it goes without saying, but sometimes it takes on a little bit more to get that first goal. And I just felt it was of the utmost importance to do that in this game. You didn't want Edmonton setting the tone, because when they are able to do that, that's when they're a dangerous team. When they have a lead, they're a very good team. Where their one struggle is obviously in net, and really the Avs should have had way more goals than they had, because Smith was not impressing me. He just seemed like he could not track a single puck. And I thought after the first, the Avs were just going to have this just barrage of goals, and they should have, but it never came. So I guess you kind of gave some credit to him, as much as he, looked horrible. Just, his positioning and stuff was terrible. He only let in 2 goals in the regulation period. But great game overall.
It was I know this is always said about games like this, but this one felt like a heavyweight fight.
Yeah.
Like the Avs would score, Edmonton would come back with a punch. And then it was kind of like waiting and seeing who makes the first mistake. And then you reach out and it's another punch and a counter punch. War Eagle, Bo Jackson, the cheat code, and Tecmo Bowl.
I had to throw that one up there.
But it was one of those games, and then everybody had Burakovsky syndrome, where they would just miss the net. Like, there were so many fantastic setups and just way high left and right, and Smith was all over the place, and the power play looked good. There were so many things.
Unbelievable.
I'm telling
you. That was the best game the Avs have had for their power play, and I'm not talking about the numbers. They were 2 for 5, but good Lord, they could have been 5 for 5 easily.
They were 5 for 5 in my heart.
They were. They looked fantastic on the power play, and how some of those goals didn't go in, I don't know. And that right there is where I'm saying, like, they could have just really laid it on Edmonton and kind of won this thing running away.
Mm-hmm.
But they did get 2, but they easily could have had the other 3
easily. And it's one of those that you keep reminding yourself, like, we don't have Gabe, we don't have like Sammy G, like the power play with Gabe Landeskog in there, where he's in the Mikko position where he was playing all night. It would be a different story when it comes to those goals.
Edmonton's fast, dude, and I'm not talking about McDavid. Obviously, we know the speed of Connor McDavid, but they play a fast game. And I'm not saying the Avs are one of the fastest teams in the league. They can hang with that, but you don't typically get a team that can hang with the Avalanche for the duration of a game. Yeah. And Edmonton can, and it just seemed like Draisaitl was out there all the time.
Yeah.
23 minutes, 21 seconds for Draisaitl. Where is McDavid? 21:46. So kind of like normal numbers for him, but on the power play, those guys play the duration of the power play. Yeah. Like where the Avs, the first unit will come out somewhere around like 1 minute and let the second unit come out. Like the Edmonton top line comes out with like 30 seconds or 20 seconds. There's almost like nothing left for that second unit to do. And that's the issue with this team, is they rely so much on those guys. I get it. You should. They're all-stars. There's a couple of the greatest players in the world.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, it's just not a formula for a winning team to go far. They just can't do it.
No. And yeah, it's very it looks like the Avalanche team from about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Where you rely on, like when we had Gabe and Renee Bork, like you can't win and go deep in the playoffs with just a line. It doesn't get you that far. So like you mentioned how fast Edmonton is. For how fast both teams are, there were not a lot of breakout chances. Well,
that speaks to the speed on the defensive end.
Yeah.
It works both ways.
Usually the speed like benefits us where we can have a breakout chance, and the same for Edmonton. Every time you see a Connor McDavid highlight, it's him breaking out on a slow defense and making those crazy little dekes and then a 30-second clip that everybody shares. But with this speed match, it took that element out of Connor McDavid's game, and he was invisible tonight, which was wonderful.
Did he score? He had an assist. I will hold Connor McDavid to an assist every day of the week and be happy with that. But yeah, you had Eric Johnson catching up to him on one.
I stood up. I was like, "What is going on in this game?"
Yeah,
Happy birthday!
Yeah, right. Standing ovations in our living rooms for that, because that was impressive. So, more to get to with this game, obviously, and of course our sound checks. So we'll get to that right after we hear from Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. So why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand that their warehouse happens to carry? Well, you have a computer and access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. It's a family-run business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. The prices are reliably low for every customer, so go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on in the How Did You Hear About Us section, so they know that we sent you to them. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. All right, sound check time. So we kind of pick songs that we feel summarize the action. Of course, this time is up against the Edmonton Oilers. Kyle had a change of heart in the seconds leading up to hitting record. We're not supposed to feed the trolls, but Kyle is for this one. Go ahead.
I had a change of heart. You saw my heart, and you know it's clean. Oh, don't you see what I mean? The song for tonight is none other than Holy Diver by my great-grandfather. Not really, but he should be. Yeah. Ronnie James Dio.
And we got to kind of put some context to this, because you had a different song, which was a good one.
Yeah.
And then somebody decided to, troll a post that I put up about Nathan MacKinnon and how Makar is a diver and how the Avalanche benefit from the refs. I don't know how that's, why was icing just off the board in that game for some reason? They were just letting these guys play, which I guess is good. But I mean, icing is kind of a big deal for some teams, because that, if teams are exhausted and tired, you need to call that thing. So I don't know how that benefited the Avs, but whatever. So Kyle kind of changed his tune to Ronnie James. You can never go wrong with Ronnie James. I mean, come on.
The innovator of the horns.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So that's a good one for me. I'm going with a song by Alter Bridge. I've grown on Alter Bridge.
Oh, love them.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I was never a big Creed fan. And when they kind of broke off from Scott Stapp and formed Alter Bridge, I'm like, okay. And I'm like, wow, this dude's got some chops. So
Miles Kennedy,
he's good. He's good.
He's real good.
I mean, Slash enlisted him to sing Axl Rose tunes when Slash was solo. But they have a song called White Knuckles. And that was kind of me tonight watching this game. Even though it's a regular season game, you're still kind of just grabbing the couch and, the recliner, and just had those white knuckles until the
That's McKinnon. A good song.
Yeah,
good pull.
Song, so follow that set list or playlist over on Spotify if you got it, LOPN Soundcheck. So if you got any of your own, we have people that throw theirs up, and I love it when people put their own up. So let's see yours. Speaking of, go ahead.
It's free, so jump over there. You can jump over there and join us on our live streams. We're free too.
We don't charge you for anything. Nope. Speaking of the dive, this is my one thing that I really want Altitude to get better at in the off season. You got to be better with the review or the replays. And they showed the Makar embellishment penalty, but it was from an angle where you really couldn't see. It wasn't that good. I wanted to see a different angle, and that was it. They showed one angle, and it's not going to change the penalty, but I kind of wanted to see it so I can come on a podcast and talk about it.
Yeah.
So, but embellishment calls are like, there's probably been 10,529 of them called, and all of them are probably disputed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of feeling like hockey players really don't embellish all that much. I don't feel like they do.
Yeah, it like that one, it was kind of rough. The one that they did show, like the guys are like, I can't believe he's why they call him for embellishment? And they show it, and everybody's just kind of quiet. And then it's like, now to the puck drop.
Yeah, and then we just moved on from it. So I don't know. It's just one of those penalties that I'm glad that it's there, but it should be used like once a season. There's not many guys that are going to go, embellishing in the world of hockey. That's just
and to Kael McCarron's defense, he had Darcy Kemper early season skates. Like he had bad footing a lot of the night. Like he
did fall. Like there was one he took, nobody was around him. Nobody. And he kind of just took a header. I don't know if he just got mixed up or if, he was tripping on the ice or what it was, but yeah, you're right. But even having said that, he was an animal, man. Him. And we said yesterday about Nathan MacKinnon, rising to the occasion when you're playing a guy, that's taking your spotlight. Connor McDavid. And I don't know if that's the reason. Maybe that was a little bit of it. But my God, this is one of the best games I've seen him play this year. And it was just, how is he going to go this game and not score a goal? Seriously, he was ringing off crossbars that were going 30 rows deep. Like that's tough to do. First of all, that's maybe more impressive than a goal. And then the overtime goal he had, which was fantastic. We'll get to that in a second. But go ahead.
Nathan MacKinnon, his ability to put that away and like kind of prove like who's the better of the two, like your hockey Jesuses plural in the league. Like he beat Connor McDavid, but there was something about Mikko that really stood out to me. Like his goal scoring ability was on a heightened level, and then they took one shot where they showed him sitting on the bench, and he had a look in his eyes that I have not seen Mikko Rantanen have ever. He looked like he was on a mission. He was mad at somebody. I don't know if Tyson Barrie giving EJ a birthday cake made him mad or something, but he had hate in his eyes, and you did not want to get in Mikko's way.
Maybe getting 2 goals early on and you want that hat trick will make you do that, but I don't know. I think he's been taking a little bit of flack recently for kind of being easy on the puck and getting removed from the puck kind of, with relative ease. And he's not that type of player, but he's got to face that. I don't know if that was it. I'm just saying, like, there was some plays, especially in an overtime game against Calgary, where he was just moved off the puck, and he's a big boy and he should not be doing it. It should not be that simple. So you're right though. I mean, and then he kind of was mixing up with, was it Yamamoto, I believe?
Yes.
Who, that little guy is everywhere.
I like him. I like him a lot.
He is like a gnat that just won't go away. And when he's, if you're an Edmonton fan, you got to love that. Yeah. But when you're watching it and he's an opponent, like he is a nuisance.
I think he was their one shining moment of the playoffs last year was his performance.
Yeah, he did very well playoffs last year. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, Mikko with the 2 goals. McCarr gets his 70th point on the season. Did he have
12 away?
He 70 and 71 because he had 2 assists. So and
11 away.
11 away. He's the only dude. He played 30 minutes. 30 minutes and 2 seconds. Part of that was because Ryan Murray went out early. Ryan Murray played 31 seconds, and then you had McDermott play 7 minutes. And everybody, Abe Kubel only played 6, but everybody else, had some pretty hefty minutes, but a 30 spot on the board for Kael McCarr, and it just doesn't seem like it affects him. He can do that with ease.
And I'm glad you said Ryan Murray and Abe Kubel, because that's probably the last time we'll mention them on this podcast for the rest of the season.
Could be. They could be the odd men out. Even with McDermott playing as, few minutes as he does, once Gerard comes back, you'd have to think he is going to be out as well. So, but right now they're in, and they're, I didn't think Kubel did horrible, but the guys that you have coming in that can replace him can, eat up some minutes.
Oh yeah.
So,
and Cogliano, he had an Ironman streak at one point, like of 830 games. Like,
did he really?
Yes, like wow. Cogliano is going to be a game in, game out gamer. Yeah. So he's going to be a great addition.
I think what all these players that the Avs acquired, what they help in two ways. They help because they're big guys. Lincoln is not a huge guy. What's his? Let me see what his weight is. I don't think it's. Yeah, he's 179 pounds.
5'11", 179.
Yeah, so he's maybe the only one that's not. He's kind of like your typical Avalanche style of player that they like to have right now. All the other guys are big bodies that don't get pushed around, and they're really good puck possession guys.
Yeah.
And Lehkonen is that too. Lehkonen doesn't have the size of the other guys, but he's really good. The zone exits are something that the Avalanche have struggled with all season, and they did against Edmonton. And Edmonton, you can't do that against Edmonton because they have the speed to, if you turn it over in the defensive zone, they can turn it around so quickly and they have a goal like the snap of their fingers. So now that they have all these guys and once they get settled in, that is what I love about these moves is the size and puck possession and zone exits are that it should be cured for the rest of the year getting these guys.
And that was something that stood out to me when I met Ryan Graves. Mm-hmm. Like, you never thought of him as like a giant player, but when I met him, like he was like in flip-flops and towered over me. So like that's all I think about now when I watch them on the ice. Like, these guys have an additional 4 to 5 inches on skates. Like, these guys are massive. Even if like 5'11", he's going to be out there. He's going to have size and he's going to be quick, but he's going to be like a Sammy G.
Yeah.
So,
in the end, the Avs win it in overtime. Crazy series of events where was it Nurse? Is it Darnell Nurse whose helmet came off? It was him, or was it? It was either Nurse.
I think it was Darnell.
I don't know which one. I think it was Nurse. Off the top of my head. Could be wrong on that, but whatever. Somebody on Edmonton lost their helmet and they have to come off the ice. But Edmonton kind of had possession of the puck, and then and Connor McDavid was out there, and they kind of fumbled it, and it just went back in the other direction. And a great move and a great pass. Who was it? It was McCarr who fed Nathan MacKinnon. Who once he got that puck, he kind of like took his time. And I'm like, please go in. Mainly because you want the Avalanche to win, but because he was so deserving of a goal in that game. And it was just a crazy series of events that, the Avalanche capitalized on.
And he already passed away like 2 goals earlier in that game where he could have easily just pulled the trigger and sniped a goal. And there were 2 times that he passed it away. And I was like, oh, would you please just take the shot?
Yeah, right. So nice sound check there.
I like that one.
So, just some quotes. Peter Ball puts up, Cogliano will join the Avs tomorrow. Lehkonen, like we said, is waiting on immigration logistics, so it could take a couple more days. So maybe he won't be there for the Wednesday game. We'll have to see. Bednar hasn't seen much of Lehkonen, but he's heard rave reviews. So he said, I didn't watch the Vegas round at all. I just didn't... He didn't watch the Vegas-Montreal series. He goes, I just didn't want to watch hockey, basically, after they lost to him. But I heard he was really good in the playoffs. Yeah.
Sakic, when he went and scouted the Islanders, they were playing Montreal.
They were, yeah.
So this is what came of that scouting. Yep. So.
Jared Bednar didn't love the game from the Avs. He liked the first and third periods, but he thought they were playing on the end of our sticks in the second period. And that's true. I think, if this was like a boxing, if you were scoring this as boxing, like I think you'd give the Avs the first and the third, and you'd give the Edmonton Oilers the second.
Yeah.
I said it became a track meet, exactly what you don't want against the Oilers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's Peter Ball posting that stuff. So,
especially when it comes to playoff hockey, if we do match up with them, you do not want this type of hockey in a series because you will wear down. And if this is going to be your opening round, you do not want to wear yourself out.
No. Good thing that it's in the mountains. Yeah. More games than it's in Canada.
Bring it on.
Yeah. All right. Well, busy day for the Avs. So I think we could use a day off with no back-to-back, which is nice. But we will be back tomorrow. Anything that goes on in Avalanche land, we can talk about it here. So for now, get some rest and get ready for this nice stretch run. We have our team. This is it. You know what I mean? So enjoy it because it's going to be a good finish of the season and cannot wait for playoff hockey to start.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. And until tomorrow, he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast,